Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Creatives of Windsor podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Sherdown, and today I'm sitting down with Dave Hunter, who's the managing partner at the Drive magazine. Dave, thanks for coming on.
Hello, Anthony. Thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm doing well, man.
All right. So, the Drive magazine, I guess that's where we're going to start, because that's probably where it started for you.
23 years ago.
23 years.
23.
So 2000?
2000, we had bought it from Kevin Cavanaugh, who ironically is a photographer, was a photographer. Now he's an artist. And he found that sales wasn't his thing. He was more of the creative mind. And I had run into him at a jewelry store, Rosser Reeves, years ago, obviously. And in conversation in the parking lot, he said, I want to sell the magazine. Would you be interested? And I thought, you know what? Why keep making money for somebody else? And at the time I had worked for another magazine. And I realized that at that moment, it was like, okay, well, I know what I can sell volume-wise and dollar-wise. Why am I doing this for somebody else when I can actually take that and put it into my own pocket? Here we are.
So were you working for another Windsor magazine at the time?
Yeah.
Was there a lot of Windsor magazines back then?
No.
No, there wasn't?
No, there wasn't. It was a very unsaturated market. I think at the time there was Windsor Life, there was BizX in Business, Windsor Business, and I think that was it. Like there might have been a couple small ones that had kind of come and gone over that duration, but those were the main players in the game. Now we have to have at least 10.
Yeah, you think so?
Oh yeah. Well, let's count them. So we have Windsor Life, BizX, Windsor Business, The Drive, Freed's, Raffi, Body. Then you have your neighborhood magazines. So there's a series of those. So Lakeshore, Neighbors of Lakeshore, Neighbors of Riverside. So they're in a small market of, let's call it 500,000 people throughout the entire county. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That would be like having 4 radio stations in the area or 6 TV stations,
yeah,
right, or channels. So it's where it becomes competitive, where you separate yourself from your competition. What does it take, right, to do things cookie cutter, I call it, and just become complacent and just kind of, it's all about the revenue. It's revenue. We're in a position as a team to look outside of that area and kind of create something unique, not only with the photography, but with the editorial, right? And it shows. I mean, you compare apples to oranges. We don't use stock photography. We don't use, recycled photography. We hire professionals like yourself. We hire professional writers, and we like to change up the tempo every issue, right? So I think that's where our longevity has come into play and where we've been successful staying in this business for 23 years.
Yeah, that's a really long time. So when you got into it, what were you doing at the other magazine? Was it sales, or were you doing more like journalistic stuff?
No, it was all sales.
It was all sales?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you took it over, you had to put on the other hats?
The publisher hat, yeah. I mean, and you learn it fairly quickly, right? Had there been a little bit of give and take on the other side of, coming up with ideas and seeing how things were put together, I think that I may have reconsidered buying the magazine, but that didn't happen. And, the end result is here we are. And, you learn quickly as an entrepreneur what it's going to take to stay alive, right? Yeah. And it's a grueling process when you have a comfort level knowing that your paycheck is consistent every Friday. Well, when you're new to the game and you're new to business, you hustle 10 times faster, right? And I haven't slowed down. I'm moving faster at 48 years old than I did when I was 28. That's the honest to God truth, right? Because now I've got the energy. I've got a little boy who keeps me young, right? And I love doing what we do.
Yeah. So you obviously had to stay different, always changing. And I've noticed that because I started working with you guys probably about almost 5 years ago.
Crazy.
And things have changed since then. I know it's crazy that it's been that long already. Now, the black and white thing, all your covers have always been black and white?
Yep. So that was the premise behind what Kevin had created. And he had only had 3 issues. So he wasn't out a full year by the time he sold it to us.
Okay.
He wanted to remain completely separate from the competition. And the easiest way to do that was to become black and white. And the caption that we used to use was, the difference is black and white, right? And people gravitated towards that at the time. And then when I had sold the business in 18, one of the things that Paul and I agreed to was that the front cover photo would remain in black and white, just to be able to separate that from everybody else. Content inside, content and stories and such are all full color now, but we still try to slide in as much black and white as we can, just for old time's sake.
Yeah, well, keeping it black and white, definitely, like, now that's your look, especially after 23 years. That's a long time. So you bought it within the first year it was going.
Yeah.
So you have had it since the beginning.
Basically.
Did you have any background in journalism or anything like that, or is your background only in sales?
Nope, my background was never sales. My background was journalism.
Oh, okay.
Studied at St. Clair College. I took criminology at the university as well. I had originally moved to Windsor from Sarnia to become a police officer, believe it or not. Thank God that didn't happen. And how things kind of switched gears, no pun intended, was being in a class. One of the professors that were teaching the class were talking about different media outlets and blah 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 blah, and the publisher of another magazine had come in and was ranting and raving about how great it was, and just lost interest of the general thing. But what I heard the most out of his I guess pitch was he was looking for a sales guy. Well, at that time I was working at the mall at Foot Locker, so I went from selling Air Jordans and jerseys to, well, let's give it a shot. How hard could it be?
Yeah.
And I remember my very first deal that I had closed was with a neighbor next to where I used to work, and basically said, I'm going to start working for this magazine. And he signed for 3 issues. And I was paid the commission, 20% commission at the time, on those 3 ads. So when I turned in that contract, I got my first commission check, and I'm like, wow, that's 3 weeks of working at the mall. Speed it up. Here we are, right? And the train hasn't slowed down, right? If you know that you can, better your livelihood by working an extra 2, maybe 3 hours, getting up at 4 in the morning instead of 7 in the morning, getting all that groundwork laid out before you start your day, like normal people, right? I am up at 4 a.m. I go to bed a lot earlier now, but I'm up at 4 a.m. But that 3 hour, 2.5 hour window where I'm not interrupted by my son or by my family, and it's quiet, my phone's not blowing up, emails aren't going nuts, I can get so much done that I basically lay that concrete foundation down. And by the time 9 o'clock comes around, I'm getting the replies back, as other people now who work the normal, have their normal business hours are now coming in and seeing those initial emails from the day.
Yeah.
So then it's just a routine that you get into where you become, just immune to it, right? And it really does make a huge difference.
Yeah, it's funny when you turn something that's creative on the front, like a magazine, or for me as a photographer, but like really most of the work behind it is all business. And that's what separates, like, there's some great photographers who don't have a head for business. And I'm sure, like, and the same thing goes with a magazine or anything creative, and the people with the business head, unfortunately, will always kind of.
Well, I that's a great point. I mean, it's what you get it. You get out of it what you want to put into it, right? And do you want to just, skate by and know that your paycheck will be there on Friday at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock? Or do you really want to grind it out and take that chance that you might be able to double that paycheck, right? And that's where my mindset was right after that first contract, because I'm like, holy shit, I can make that much that easy. So then it was just like knock, 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 and it was great.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel like work. Like, for me, like I've been self-employed since I was 19. I've never had an adult job. and it's been almost 10 years. And yeah, you put in extra work, but it never really feels like work. It's kind of just like a game.
Again, yeah, and you wouldn't want to be in that position, like at your age now, getting into, let's call it, working in a trade, right? Getting in, swinging a hammer all day long, building houses and framing, right? You'd probably lose your mind as an entrepreneur because you were so used to doing your own thing at your own time. Now you're basically, a prisoner of the clock.
Yeah. Well, I don't even care what the work is as long as I'm the boss. I'll swing a hammer all day, but I want to be the one that like got that job.
Sure.
Brought that client in, and like I'm making the money, making all the decisions.
Yep.
That's, and then hustling and trying to just grow. Grow.
Well, that's how you do grow, right? And then other things evolve from that. I mean, look at, being in the media for 25 years. I've recently, as of last year, got into real estate, right? And so that, let's call it side hustle now and side gig has become a very lucrative, job and career on top of this stuff. So getting up at 4 a.m., laying that foundation for the drive during the day, and then being able to kind of swing things as you go throughout the remainder of the day. I just make sure that I don't, cross-contaminate and start to take time away from my family.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's important. And, I have like I said, a 6-year-old son. I have a wife. I've got, daughters, and it's just one of those things, that it's priorities, right? You pick and choose your battles. I'm in drum lessons. I'm in soccer, and there's always something going on, right? By 9:30, I am bagged. Yeah. Like I'm ready to go to bed. And it's just, you got to look at what you did during the day, right?
Yeah. One of the most important things when running your own business or just doing anything in business is time management. And that could make or break for sure.
It's scary because this little device right here can make or break so much, right? And all the years of when BlackBerries first came out, I didn't want to become a prisoner to the device.
Yeah.
Shame on me that it took me a lot, some years to actually pick it up.
Yeah, for sure.
But it worked out, quite well. The invention of the Apple or the iPhone has been a savior. Like I don't physically need to go into an office at 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't need to be in the office to receive stuff to make the magazine work, right? We just pumped out 3 different magazines in the last month. So we had The Drive, we had WOW, which is Women of Windsor, Essex, and then We Manufacture, which catered to the tool and die construction, robotics automation industry. And it was seriously time management to the next level. Would I do it again? No. I wouldn't do 3 in the same month. I'd do 2 all day long. It was a lot of shuffling and a lot of juggling, and it worked out at the end of the day, but it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously I know that you've, taken up real estate in the last year, and which obviously brings over your skills from everything you've always been doing. You're just selling a house and
when you deal with, so I've been dealing with people pretty much my entire life, right? It's communication is huge, right? Honesty is huge. If people trust you, you're golden. Like you have to build that trust with a lot of people. There's no nonsense, no BS. And I've always been a straight shooter, right? If I think it's going to work, I'll tell you it's going to work. If I don't think it's going to work, you may not like what I'm going to say, but I'm being honest.
Yep.
And I've owned enough houses in my past that I've had the construction background when it comes to knowing bits and pieces of houses and how mechanics work and all this fun stuff. So that was a kind of an easy transition for me to get into, right? Mm-hmm. This is what I do every day, right? So if you're looking for a house and you say, Dave, I need a house. I'm looking in, South Windsor. This is what my budget is. Can you, help me out? Can you help? And that's where I go to work and start finding, areas of interest, schools, what you can afford. And then we work backwards from there. So it worked out. It worked out quite well. And then again, it goes back to, the way that most real estate professionals work is you learn the course, you get in with a brokerage, you build up your network, you learn the marketing, Well, I did everything backwards. I have the network, know the marketing. Now I had to learn the business side, or I guess not so much the business side, but the legalities of real estate.
Yeah.
Right. And as we just keep moving and moving, it just becomes natural. And the process and the way that you work with other realtors in the city. I mean, it is really a fun career. I mean, and it hasn't contaminated anything that I've done with the magazine. So it's benefited quite well.
Which is good. And I know that you brought it up as it's like a side hustle, and people will like, side hustle is a big word now, and everybody's always like looking for their thing to do to make money, and people will ask me for advice and stuff. And I always say exactly what you did, which is stick to what you know when you're looking for something new, because you already have the skills. And it doesn't even have to be, to make money, but it's always good to stick to things, what you know, if you want to branch into something new. Like, for example, this podcast, like I already did most of this stuff. It was easy to branch into it, just like real estate was easy for you to branch into. That definitely makes things easier.
Well, you know what you know, right? And when you're comfortable in your environment, right, and you know that you can do a little bit here, a little bit there, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right? Because you're not picking up a camera 24/7.
No.
Pivot. Right?
Yeah.
Switch it up a little bit.
It is good to do new things.
Little spice of life, man. And that's really what it is, right? It's something new, even though real estate's real estate, but you always meet new people, or just like the magazine, you're always meeting new business owners, or you're meeting new readers, or you're finding out new stories, and you're meeting potentially new writers and new photographers, right? And it's never the same thing day in, day out.
Which is, that's the best thing about being an entrepreneur and doing your own thing, is you never know what I have a general idea of what tomorrow's going to be, but I don't know exactly what tomorrow's going to be.
Anything can change.
Yeah, anything can change. So let's get back to the magazine. So if you were to explain the drive to somebody who's never seen it, like what is the main goal with that magazine? What are you guys trying to do with every issue?
So we promote local talent. We promote local businesses. We promote local stories of interest. It's a lifestyle publication. So somebody who hasn't seen the drive, could pick it up and within a second understand that it's not a car magazine, that it's something about our area, our region, right? I grew up in Sarnia, Lambton I was there for almost 20 years. When I moved here in 95, it was a shock, because the city was, big. The downtown core was vibrant. There was always lots of stuff going on. So, even out the outskirts of the county and stuff like that, there were stories to be told, right? So when we got into the publishing business, we knew that how we could do that, right? And how we could share stories of interest, that if I could help somebody who may not have known that, this facility opened up in Kingsville and it's, kid friendly. Well, there you go. Right now we've just kind of worked that relationship with a business owner or whatever it happens to be. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's the easiest way you can describe it. It's a true city lifestyle publication.
Yeah.
In and out.
I like it. So you were doing this back in 2000. Things were a lot different back then. Like you said, there was only a few magazines. See, print was probably more popular back then, but it was a lot harder to do, right?
I don't think so. When you say print, I think every time I hear the word print being popular, I think of newspaper, right? The magazine industry hasn't flinched at all, like at all.
Okay.
Even in 2008, when the economy started to do a little bit of a nosedive during COVID, we had record numbers during a pandemic, which is crazy, which you think it would be the complete opposite. But I think, the tangible product of, if I gave you an iPad or I gave you that magazine right there and I said, I want you to sit down on your couch, what do you feel more comfortable with? If I said, okay, I'm going to give you an hour to read, would you want something that you can feel, or would you want a glass top that you just keep swiping, right?
For me, it's always,
you want the feel of it, right? Yeah. So I don't think print will ever fade away. I don't think that, magazines will become strictly digital, but we offer both, right? Just in case somebody does want to watch or read it on their iPad or on their phone, they have that option.
So you were doing things in 2000. There was like digital wasn't the photography yet. Nope. It was still in the darkroom printing.
Yep. It was all process. Yeah.
It
was huge.
That's a big change from how it was. And how it is now.
Well, even looking back at some of the covers that we shot, I mean, I remember Kevin developing those in his studio, right? And giving us the 8x10 shot that we had to take to go get scanned at Red Graphics, which was around at the time. And they had this super high-tech, state-of-the-art scanner where I'm sure most cell phones are probably as, detailed in scanning stuff now as that machine was for a fraction of the cost. But we used to have to outsource so much stuff to get stuff done. Ad creation. We designed 95% of our ads. Very few people had a graphic designer to do their work. Now we have a ton of clients that know a designer or have a friend that's a designer or work with an ad agency or a company that designs it. This makes our job that much smoother.
Yeah, it's a much quicker process, but those careers are still there. Everybody just does them differently, you know? So you had to adapt and change through that time, like the flip in like 2000, whatever, 6 or 7 of doing that big process and then moving over to the new thing. Was that a big change? Was it hard to adapt to all that stuff?
No, because it didn't happen overnight, right? It wasn't like you just woke up and it's like, oh shit. Yeah. And now I've got to use a digital camera. How do I download pictures, right? When you're so used to a process of film and being in the darkroom and stuff like that. No, the transition was pretty smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess that makes sense. Like it slowly happens. So like at first, you stopped having to scan 8x10s. You could scan something smaller and then the scanners got better and then just everything kind of evolved and kind of grew and it was a little bit smoother.
The biggest transition for me was leaving Facebook to start an Instagram page because I always thought it was a younger demographic. It's a necessary evil, right?
Yeah, there's so much social media, and I've always just stuck to those two, and I've branched off to the others, and I have even in the last year. But I think that just Instagram and Facebook is where to be.
Yeah, for a business owner, for sure. Yeah. TikTok, no, I'm not interested. We have a Twitter account, but we seldomly use it.
Me too.
Yeah. Nobody has time to care about what I'm going to tweet about, or very few people, right? So we just keep it generic.
Yeah. And then on Instagram, you can still share like the short form video content like you can on TikTok. And what I do is when I make a reel for Instagram, I have a TikTok account and I'll post it, but I don't use that. Like I don't go on TikTok and I'm not trying to really make connections there, as much as Instagram.
Yep.
But it's always changing. It's always kind of difficult. So I know that you were in sales, but you were still running the whole magazine. What was your favorite area of the publishing world, like photography, writing, any of that stuff?
Yeah, you know what? I'll go photography because we met some pretty wild people across the area, some national level people, Margaret Atwood, Rip Hamilton from the Pistons, Mike Bullard from Open Mic with Mike Bullard, Colin Fior, the Canadian actor, Darren McCarty from the Red Wings. Celebrity-wise, it's been cool. But just watching the creative ideas that went in behind the scenes to create those impactful covers was cool. Because that was one thing that I knew that where I worked before, it was like, okay, deadline's here. We don't have a cover yet. Let's pull up a CD-ROM and find me a bird that makes it look like it's from Point Pelee, right? And that really legit happened. And it was like, huh? What? Like, really? Like, you don't want to go hire a photographer and take your own photo? You just want to make it, look like it came from that area, right? So I knew that wasn't going to happen with the drive. That was like,
yeah.
No.
The nice thing about photography, even over interviews, sometimes you have to get together, but you can just do that over the phone a lot of times. You don't always have to be face to face, but with photography, you have to meet them and you have to make a real connection and you get to spend time with these really interesting people.
100%.
And it's nice. It is cool. So you got it in 2000. When did you sell it?
2018.
2018.
Yep.
Has it been just getting to probably do the stuff you love there instead of...
Unbelievable. Because I don't have to worry about the business side of things like I used to where, we'd have to worry about payroll remittances and income tax and payroll deductions and all that fun stuff for the business side of it. Now I can do what I'm very, very good at, and that's sell, right? We have a team now that takes place of all the invoicing, all the receivables, all the past dues, where years back, I probably spent 30% of my time during a week chasing people for money because we didn't have a surplus in the bank. So, if we needed to come up with 10 grand quick to pay off our printing bill, we had to start chasing people who were delinquent in past the 30 days, right? You do that, you take away from the time that you're supposed to be selling, right? So it caused a lot of stress. So this new transition for me has been phenomenal. Paul's been an unbelievable business partner. He sees the vision, saw the vision. That's why he bought the magazine. He could have started his own publication. He has the financial means to do so, but he took something that he was part of. He was one of our first covers in 2001.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man. And it was one of those, things that he knew that it was established. Now we're going to go from here and we're going to give it a little shot in the ass and we're going to take off. And we did, right? Nobody's touching us now.
Yeah, it's cool to do things like over the course of 23 years, you do have to make big changes over that time, I'm sure, every few years, and really revamp things and remodel how things are going to go.
I can show you issues of where I used to work to where they're at now. Nothing's changed in 25 years. Same fonts, same names, same ideas per issue. And I vowed to our team that would never happen, right? Thinking outside the box, looking outside of our area to find something of interest. We just did an interview with Colin Mockery from Whose Line Is It? Whose Line Is It Anyway? He came to the Capitol Theater. Well, Colin Mockery doesn't have any ties to Windsor, but people from Windsor used to love his show. That's where you separate yourself, right? You got to think outside that area.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good to always be, kind of changing and to never think that what you're doing is the best way and always leave room to grow.
Paul always said if he did the same landscape job on every job, he'd be out of business years ago. That's the honest to God truth.
Even if it was a good job.
It could, yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't just do that cookie cutter kind of template and just expect that it's going to continue to grow. You've got to shift and you've got to move and you got to always be on your toes and be ready to go. Like at the drop of a hat, anything can change.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody could come into town or somebody calls and says, hey, so-and-so, Lawrence Fishburne was in Windsor. If I would have known Lawrence Fishburne was in Windsor having a cigar down at Casa de Labano on Olette, I would have been in my car down to Casa. And I there's a way to approach celebrities tastefully. If there would have been 15 minutes, I could do the interview with my phone and had one of my writers transcribe it. Mm-hmm. I would have known what to say. I would have known what I wanted. If as a reader, I would have wanted to know what, he might think of certain things. What do you think of our area? What are you doing in Windsor? Things of that stuff, right? So just, you got to always be on your toes.
Yeah, for sure.
And sleep with one eye open.
What are some of the most exciting things that have come out of it? Like you just mentioned Darren McCarty, all these interesting people. What's something that really stands out?
Man, I think for me, meeting Margaret Atwood as a Canadian novelist and published, award-winning published author, her work is legendary, right? I think we had 10 minutes, and literally her people said, yes, but this is how you're going to do it. You're going to tip the bed up in her hotel room. You're going to set up your lights and you're going to do your photo shoot in that hotel room. We literally did. Picked up the bed, put it up on the side of the wall. It was the quickest studio that we converted, and literally that's 10 minutes starting now. Bed, shut the drapes, put some lights up, and then shoot.
Wow.
Yeah, I got to go, right? But we got it, right? So, it's meeting not just celebrities, but you meet so many cool people. The majority of the people that I've been fortunate enough to have as clients have become friends.
Which is the best.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Because then so much more spins off from that too.
Oh man, give my buddy Dave a call, right? Give my buddy Dave a call, and it's reciprocating all the way around, right? And it goes the other way. If I know somebody who needs something, give my buddy Tony a call, right? Yeah. It's a part of doing business.
Yeah, especially I always say Windsor's the perfect size. It's not too small where there's nothing going on, but it's not too crazy where you're just like, who are you? It's the perfect size where, there's enough going on for everybody and you can have enough connections and it's just perfect, I've always felt that way. So what are some exciting things you guys are currently doing with the mag?
I cannot tell you that.
Okay.
I mean, we're still growing with, you know, each issue that we do, right? And it's trying to find new ways to develop and create interesting content. And yeah, I mean, we have a few things in the hopper right now, but I don't want to let it out of the bag yet.
That's okay. That's okay.
Because We Manufacture was a trade secret for a while, and then it's now 5 issues out. Wow. Women of Windsor Essex magazine was kind of hush-hush for a little bit until I think February, March, when we launched it on social media. And then it just catapulted to the stratosphere. So I don't want to jinx anything yet, but
it's okay.
We've got some pretty cool stuff coming up that's going to be a give back to the community.
Cool. When the Wow magazine, I did photos for you guys like last month for that, just for one. How often are you going to put that out?
Quarterly. Yeah.
And what's the drive?
8 times a year.
8 times a year.
Every 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a nice balance right now for the first year. Wow. I think that will kind of get the bugs out so that we know what to expect moving forward. Could Wow surpass the drive and become a monthly publication? It very well could. There's a lot of support behind it. There's a lot of great stories behind it. Finding things to write about is endless. So we're in a really good position that way. And to be the first out of the gate to really, make an impact. I mean, there's other magazines that have, done certain things. I won't discredit that, but I think the firepower that we have behind it is unlike anything in the city.
It's inspiring to hear that you say that there's so much to cover. And, even when I told people about this podcast, there's always negative people, but they say, is there enough people in Windsor? I was like, I listed off 10 and they're just like, oh yeah, well, I guess so. Like there is more than enough people around. And it's inspiring that after 23 years, you still feel like, yeah, we'll never run out of people.
And I want to go to work each day. Right, I haven't hit that wall where I'm like, I've had enough.
Yeah.
Or the boredom hasn't kicked in, and it's just lollygagging and becoming complacent. Right, I won't let that happen. I'm too competitive. I am. I just get out of my way, or I'm going to run you over.
That's okay.
Yeah, it is.
So the drive car, you made that. When did you do that to the car?
Oh man, right. Basically, a couple months after I came back. So. We actually had a pickup truck years ago that had stickers from the fender to the bumper.
Yeah.
And it looked like a safari vehicle because it was all black. The truck itself was white, but every sticker on the side from front to back was black and white. So you could see it coming from a mile away. The Ford Flex, which is not one of the most sexiest looking vehicles, is a perfect vehicle to use for a billboard because it's square like a Kleenex box, right? And we've switched the covers on the sides before, but I had a guy stop me in front of the Home Hardware on Les Bronze near the expressway one day, and he's honking, and I didn't know that he was honking at me. So I look over, and he's kind of like doing the roll the window down sign. So I roll the window down. He goes, how many of those you got in the road? I said, just this one. Why? He goes, because I see it everywhere. And I'm like, perfect. Job well done.
Are you the only one that drives that car around?
Yep.
Nice. So let's get off of the magazine thing. You're super into music, which I see, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Are you? Yeah, and you're always posting that your son's into drumming. Now, how old is he?
6.
He's 6. He's looking pretty good on those things.
He is. He's in lessons already. Having played for 35 years myself, off and on for some time and then taking a big break in between. As a drummer, you can feel it, right? And if I were to give a kid who's never played drums before, most kids will probably use both hands at the same time, right? He became where he started doing that, and he would find that rhythm where he's doing things like this, and he's mimicking videos that we were watching. Like we would watch Phil Collins videos live in Montreux, and he would literally set up cushions like a drum set, and you could hear that, right? And I'm like, God, to my wife, I'm like, Shauna, look at him go, right? And I started recording him, and I'm like, that's not normal. Like his wrists are moving faster than a normal 5-year-old at the time were going. And I'm like, done. You want a big pearl set, son? You got it. Do we have to go shopping for cymbals? Yeah, we do.
So your love for music, when you were doing things for the drive, did you always kind of have like a little sweet spot for musicians? Do you think that you featured them a little bit more?
No. I think that there's my love for music has gone since I was 9 years old, that I can remember things from there's an era, a couple eras that, well, the era is the 80s, but there are a couple years in that 80s category that are very instrumental to me growing up, 84 to 86. And there aren't too many songs that you couldn't throw on right now that I couldn't tell you who the artist is, right? Because I drove it home. Just music, music, music. I cannot work in my office without having background music on. And it's nine times out of 10, it's 80s.
Yeah. Yep. No, me too. I have music blasting 24/7.
Yep.
Spotify does that wrapped with the hours.
Yep.
Nobody beats me. I always got, maybe you do, I don't know, but I always got like a ridiculous amount of hours, every genre. I don't even care. So 80s is your favorite though?
Yep. I mean, I like everything but country. I mean, not that I don't like country, but I don't listen to it too often.
Yeah.
I can appreciate it. I'm not into rap anymore. I used to be. There was a time where I became rebellious to my father, who was a biker, and his thing was all 70s classic rock, right? He grew up in that 60s, 70s era.
Yeah.
And saw the Stones, saw Jethro Tull, saw, when they were just starting to swing out, like where the tickets were $10, right? Yeah. And there was a time where I'm just like, I don't want to listen to this music anymore. And I started getting into Run DMC and Fat Boys and Beastie Boys and Tone Loc and Young MC, Rob Bass, Maestro Fresh West, like all those, pioneers, if you will, of rap and hip hop.
Yeah.
Right. It's a far cry from what it is now, but that was the foundation, right?
Yeah.
So
no, for me, like that 60s, 70s is my favorite, that kind of rock. But I always, listen to music all day. You got to listen to everything. Mm-hmm. And what you said about country is probably the same thing. I feel I will listen to everything else. I do love everything else, even rap. But country is like the one thing that I don't really spend too much time listening to. Yeah, I don't know.
It's depressing. Like it's it's the same tempo. I mean, you get a couple good artists that can really, blow it out.
Yeah.
Garth Brooks, I would pay to see live because I know that his shows are energetic, loud. I just took Sam to his first concert at the casino on Friday to see Walk Off the Earth. It was an all ages show, so I brought a 6-year-old to a concert, and as soon as he came in and the lights went down, and then the lights came on the stage, dialed right in.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is cool.
Did what's your favorite concert you've ever been to?
That's a hard question to answer. I mean, concert or show entirely? I think the coolest show that I went to was the SARS event in Sarnia. My God, the SARS event in Toronto at Downsview Park, and that was, I believe, in 2002 or 2003, and that was where they brought in the Tea Party, the Guess Who, Rush, AC/DC, and then the headliner was the Rolling Stones.
Yeah,
and there was 500,000 people there.
That's a hell of a show.
It was crazy. It was hot as hell too that day.
Yeah.
Zero shade, no trees. It was in an old airport, open field airport. But it was pretty cool to be part of something historic like that. And I mean, that I believe was bigger than Woodstock at the time.
What year was that?
2002 or 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, getting out of that airport was a lot of fun. It was crazy.
I'm going to see Dead and Company next month.
Nice.
Do you know them?
No.
It's the Grateful Dead, but because Jerry Garcia is dead, they changed it. It's called Dead and Company, and John Mayer plays with them.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah.
Nice.
When I first saw that a while back, when I found them, I was like, that's interesting. And then I was like, he's a killer musician.
Oh yeah, he's a hell of a guitarist.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? It must be awesome. I watched some live stuff with him playing with them. Because Bob Weir, he's still in the band. Mm-hmm. This is their last tour.
Because those guys got to be in their mid-70s.
Older, I think. Well, Bobby Weir's the youngest one, and he's mid-70s at least. Yeah, wow. He's played over 6,000 shows. I think he's played more than any musician of all time.
That he remembers how many of those 6,000 shows?
Yeah, because he joined the Grateful Dead when he was 15,
crazy,
16,
yep.
Something like that. And Jerry Garcia was like 21. And he's been dead for 30 years.
Garcia's been dead that long? Wow.
He died the year I was born, 95, which is the year you said you came here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
That's a long time.
It is a long time.
And 6,000 shows.
That's you wouldn't remember half of that. You remember certain shows, I'm sure, being coherent, but when you get to that level, you just become immune to travel. You don't know when you wake up. You get on a bus, you wake up, or you get on a plane. Next thing you know, you're in Germany. Next thing you know, you're in London, Ontario, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, get up on stage. You're like,
6,000 days. That's every day for, I counted one. It was like about 18 years.
That's
no
crazy.
Day off, 18 years.
Straight.
Yeah.
That's a full shift.
Since 64, I think.
Wow.
So that's
a long time.
That's a lot of, that's really never taking any time off.
Yeah.
Almost. Like, that's crazy.
Think of what his finger strength is like.
Yeah. Yeah, he's killer. So you brought up the Tea Party. Mm-hmm. You're friends with them. I know you're friends with Jeff Burrows, right?
Burrows and I mean, I know the other guys from, obviously doing stuff in the drive and supporting their stuff when they were in town. But yeah, Jeff and I are good buddies.
Have you, I'm sure you featured them in the magazine.
Quite a bit.
At least once or twice?
I've probably done about half a dozen times over my duration, if not more.
Have you had them on the cover?
Not yet.
No?
Nope.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw them twice. I shot photos of them twice when they played Blues Fest, which I think was the last time Blues Fest happened. It hasn't happened since.
Nope.
Yeah.
So it's become that La Una, the unity.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. What's that about?
Same thing. They just kind of dissolved, from what I understand, is they dissolved the Blues Fest name and just like unity is why unity, right? To bring in just different acts, because I think what they did. What the original founder tried to do with Blues Fest was to keep it blues, and then, obviously trying to spread out the music genres.
Yeah.
It was hard to bring in, somebody like Vanilla Ice and call it Blues Fest.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing to do with blues. So to kind of dissolve the name and kind of reinvent itself using the same platform just allows them to kind of, spread their wings a little bit.
That year the Tea Party played was killer. They headlined the one night. The Sheepdogs, I think, headlined the other night.
Yeah.
Foghat played. Talk about an old band.
Yeah, the Tea Party, when you get to a level of that style musician, when you play for 30 plus years, it's not like you need to practice. You just know timing. You pick it up. They played 2 shows back to back with the symphony. One was at the casino, the other one was in Sarnia at the Imperial Theater. And we went to the one in Windsor. It was killer. Like, killer.
Was that the one in 2019 probably?
No, it was this year.
Oh, it was this year?
Yeah.
Because they played at the casino in 2019 as well.
Yeah.
You were there for that, I think.
Yes,
I
sir.
remember.
Yeah.
I shot photos for that one for them. That was super cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, very interesting. I'd like to speak with them one day. At least one of them. That'd be really cool. Have them on the show.
I could make a call.
Yeah, there you go. Bring it back to, yeah. Everybody knows, somebody that
6 degrees of separation. It's true.
So is there anything else that you specifically wanted to touch on, talk about?
This has been great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Anthony, you're a good host.
Thank you. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. The Drive magazine, you can find it everywhere, mostly Facebook and Instagram, but all around the city. Yeah, where do you guys have it?
Oh, man. 40 locations. Windsor Regional Hospital, WFCU Center, Vollmer, Sobeys, all the beer stores. Like those are just the racks. We do a printed circulation of 30,000 copies per issue, so it's scattered all over the county.
Yeah, I've gotten it in my mailbox before. It's always around. So yeah, definitely go pick up a copy if you haven't already. Especially if you enjoy this show. They've been around a lot longer and they have a lot of interesting people in there. So check it out. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, dude. Boom. Oh, wow. Holy shit, my ears are sweating. That was fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
That actually sounded pretty cool.